Chess fans, in this video we will look at the game played between Furman and Viktor Korchnoi in Kiev in 1954, and we will look at a very exciting Grunfeld game with a lot of tactical things to learn. So Furman had white, and after d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, d5, Korchnoi is playing the Grunfeld, and the main line is c takes here, and then after bishop g7, knight f3, c5, black is playing against the white center. But Furman played another main line, knight f3, and after bishop g7, bishop f4. And the idea is to bring the bishop out before we play e3. And after castle, white played rook c1. And the idea is to put pressure on this file, which becomes important later in the game, take the rook out of the bishop's diagonal, and encourage black to play d takes c, which is usually good for white. Okay, after d takes c, e3, white is getting ready to take this pawn back, but white is playing bishop e6, protecting the pawn, and knight g5 is a standard maneuver here. And I think there's a variation here which goes bishop to g4, and after f3, bishop c8, and that's okay for black, I think. But in this position, black continues bishop d5, and that's very interesting because the bishop has been moving out of here and is now in the middle of the board. And the idea is that after e4, black can play h6, and then takes, bishop takes, knight takes, bishop takes knight b6, bishop b3, and this is in about an equal position. So that's fine for black. So the bishop is actually fine here in the center of the board, because after e4, black has h6. But in this position, white just took the bishop, and after this exchange, we have reached a very interesting position in this variation. And maybe a little tactics question. Should white worry about the bishop here on f4, which black is threatening to take and then potentially ruin white's pawn structure? So should white, for example, take the pawn here? What happens after knight takes? Okay, of course, if white was to take the knight like this, that's not so good. But actually, it's possible to go into this variation because white can play queen f3, and the queen is now attacking the knight, and the point is that the knight cannot move away, because after knight e6 we have knight takes, rook takes, and bishop takes. So as a result, black in this position should play e6, and then the queen can take the knight without ruining the pawn structure, and now white is actually very active. Okay, so that's the kind of idea why it's good for white to take this pawn here. But white just moved the bishop back to g3 because he was maybe not seeing this, and he was a little bit afraid of ruining his pawn structure. But what is the big downside of this move? And this is very typical for the Grunfeld defense. The downside is that black can now play c5. The white king is still in the center of the board. The typical Grunfeld motives, like bringing the queen in, playing with this diagonal, is all in the position, and white has lost an important tempo with bishop g3. So white plays bishop takes c4, and black plays c takes d. Okay, quick tactics question. Can white now take the pawn on d4 with e takes d? Okay. White cannot do this because black has queen a5. The king is still stuck in the middle of the board, and after queen d2, queen takes, king takes, knight b6 hitting the bishop. The bishop tries to protect the pawn here on d4, and knight c6 is just attacking this entire structure, and the king is in the middle of the board, the rooks come in. So that is too dangerous. So after c takes d, white already has to find tactical resources, and white did find a resource here with queen b3, and in this position black played the ultra sharp d takes e. Black has a few other options. Black can play queen a5 check and forcing the king to move, and after d3 bishop takes, play knight c6, and this is a good position for black as well, a little bit safer. Black also can play e6 protecting the knight, and then after queen b7, knight d7, bishop takes, queen takes the knight, queen takes, rook fd8, queen b7, queen takes d5. It's black also has a fine position, but again in this position white has just found the saving queen b3, and Korchnoi continued with the ultra sharp d takes e. Okay, so in this position, what happens with this knight here? White just took this knight, and another tactical question: did black just lose a piece? White is white is a piece up. Did black just lose a piece? Okay, let's have a look how the game continued. e6, and can white now play simply bishop to takes b7? No, because the king is still in the middle of the board and there is a mate here. Okay, so the bishop is kind of stuck in the middle of the board, and at the same time e6 also attacks the knight. Again, turns out white has a saving move, knight takes e6, and in this position another tactics question: can black take the knight here on e6? Can black take this knight like this? Well, white then gives a check, king h8, and white is in time to castle, and this position here is maybe a little bit more comfortable for white. So black can take this knight, but then all the tension is away. So black continued with queen a5 check. Okay, so the game really becomes really crazy now. So the white knight is attacked, the king is attacked, there's this bishop here, there's this pawn, so there's like a lot of things going on. And all the while the black king is very safe. So this is sort of like the Grunfeld fireworks. Okay, in this position white has to play rook c3, and now black retook the knight, bishop takes c6 check, king h8. White now has 5 pawns and black has 4 pawns, and this pawn here in the front. But of course white doesn't want to take this pawn now, because then the king would be stuck in the middle of the board. White first wants to castle, and this is what white does here. And now in this position, black plays e2. Okay, so let's have a look at this position. White has finished developing. All the pieces are out, but the big feature of this position is that black has this pawn here on e2. So white moves the rook in front of the pawn. The rook was attacked. And now, should black take the exchange here? Position a question. The rook is on prise. Should black take this rook? Okay, black should not do that because the bishop is much stronger than the rook. And there's also tactical considerations, because after b takes, black continues with knight c6, rook takes the pawn, so the big advantage by black is eliminated. And if black then develops his rook and brings it into the game, c4 already threatens queen b2 with a mating attack, and black is forced to drop back and defend. And the bishop pair, the open king, and the queen is just you know, even though black is an exchange up, this holds the position in equality, and I think it's very dangerous for black if somebody is having really to take care not to lose here. It's black. Okay, so because of this, in this position, black should probably not take the exchange, and Korchnoi indeed instead played knight c6, bringing in more pieces into the attack. And the idea behind knight c6 is also that the rook can now not take this pawn because of this fork. Okay, so this pawn here is actually, as long as the pieces are, as long as the queen is here, the pawn cannot be taken. And so white was maybe a little bit afraid, didn't want to give up the exchange, moved the rook back, protected this rook, which would have been attacked by the queen if the rook would have moved somewhere else. And now Korchnoi said, okay, I'm attacking, and he brought the rook in to d8. But it turns out he had two interesting options here after knight d4. Queen d5. The queen wants to maintain coordination with the bishop, but also go away from the attack. The safe option would be queen b6, protecting this pawn. And then after white moves the bishop away, bringing in the rook, the queen moves away, and then queen takes this pawn, and black is maintaining this pawn and is a pawn up, and all the pieces are developed. So that would have been the safe option. And after knight d4, queen d5, there's even queen d2, which is a decisive advantage, because if, for example, white plays bishop e5, the rook can be brought in a tempo on the queen again, and if bishop takes, queen takes, and king takes, and the queen gives this check, the king can move to h6 and is relatively safe here. And now if the bishop moves away, rook d8, like the rooks go against the king, so this is threatening. Queen takes c1. If white doesn't do anything, the queen can take the rook, and then there's this threat here. So white has to move the rook away, and in this position here, the rook, believe it or not, the rook can take here, because after king takes, there's a mate. And so the game goes on and on and on. So queen d2 just brings in the queen into the attack directly, and would have been, after knight d4, queen d5, this would have been a winning move. But Korchnoi felt, okay, rook to d8 is bringing the piece into the attack, and maybe he could have thought a little bit more here, but certainly this move also looks pretty menacing. White is really concerned about this pawn here, so this pawn is a big thing that makes white think and lose time. Okay, the game continued with queen takes b7, and now knight d4 is not so strong, because white is attacking the rook and the queen. The queen now moves to d2, so all these ideas that we've seen before come in now, just that knight d4 would have been stronger before. And white takes the exchange. So did black lose the exchange here, or what? What was, in this position, what was the idea of queen to d2? Okay, the idea was that black now has queen f4, threatening mate on f2, and white is under huge pressure now. Black is down a rook now, so Korchnoi is really going crazy in this attack. I mean, he can still win back this bishop here, or taking the bishop here with the rook. But hey, he's threatening mate now, and there are a lot of threats in the position. White played f3 to protect against this mate. Bishop e5 threatening mate again. g3, queen e3 check. King has to move up. And now knight takes. Okay, so black is an exchange down now, and king has kind of moved out of the immediate mating attacks. In this position, white, Furman with white only had 1 minute on the clock, and he played the queen to e4, and the game continued. Queen takes, f takes, rook takes d8. Okay, and now white is 2 pawns up, but black has the 2 pieces. And in the rest of the game, Korchnoi is centralizing the king, protecting the pawn. and then all the pieces here are coordinating nicely, and then white offered a draw here on move 32. So white was just running out of time and offered a draw here. The ending would have been slightly better for white, but as so often, if you got the attack, your opponent has to spend a lot of time finding the right moves and defending. And with this pawn on e2, there's a huge pressure going on. So that's the benefit of attacking, of having the initiative. Your opponent is wasting time because he has to find precise moves. And so in this position, white could have actually played bishop e7, attacking the rook. And black doesn't have so many good moves, because if the rook moves up, there's the double attack on the king and the knight, and white wins. If the rook moves here, white also has the double attack on the rook and the queen and the knight. So this bishop here on e7 attacks the rook, but also breaks the coordination of the pieces. And the queen is then able to exploit this. There was also a bishop to a5, even just moving the bishop away. White has taken the exchange and is moving the bishop away. Even this would have maintained the material advantage. And knight f4 looks threatening, but black doesn't really have, but it looks quite scary. I'm not sure if you would have wanted to go for bishop a5. It looks quite scary, especially if you're low on time. So it is understandable that Furman played queen e4 here, but then the game fizzled out in a draw. So let's have a look at some key moments in the attack. Just looking through the game here. So bishop d5, okay. c5 is starting the attack, and then in this position, okay, white already has to calculate. I cannot take the pawn, it doesn't work. Okay, I have to find queen b3. Then the ultra sharp d takes e. And white has to calculate, okay, can I just take the knight or what happens? And then, okay, what do I do now? Where does the bishop move? Can I take here? My knight is attacked. Okay, I found the knight takes. Yeah, so a lot of calculation. White, is on a lot of pressure and has to find a lot of good moves. Okay, then queen a5, attacking the king. Oh my god, then do I put this rook in here into the open diagonal with the bishop? Okay, black has won back my knight. And now, oh, let's castle. But then this pawn comes here, and I think I can attack it. And then the knight comes in, protecting this pawn with the fork. And so I'm moving my rook back. And then, it's just so much pressure going on. And that's the feature of an attack. So Korchnoi is ferociously attacking. And in the end, white has had to find all these moves, and then was so low on time that that white was not finding the winning move in the end, and just tried to bail out by bringing in the queen and exchanging the queens. Okay, interesting attacking chess by Viktor Korchnoi in the Grunfeld. I hope you enjoyed the video, worked a little bit on your tactics, and learned a little bit about attacking chess. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next time.